So it's officially August 6th and Kanye West DONDA album is still not here. It's the second time that he does this to us where he gives us a release date, or at least, people around him have given us a date, including Beats and Justin LeBoy. But once again, the album has not dropped and he fooled me again. Are you surprised by this?
I don't even know how to feel at this point. I mean, there was so many indications that said, listen, Donda will be dropping, and it just hasn't. I mean, we even had a pre-save for the album on iTunes. It says it's expected by August 9th, but we've had that sort of situation where iTunes advances the expected date of the album by a couple of days. It happened with Isaiah Rashad's The House is Burning. But at this point, I just don't know what to believe, because even at that, Def Jam came out and said it's Donda Day. We just had a mega listening party in Atlanta for the second time, and the album was sounding fantastic. Like, the mixing and mastering was on point. There was a lot of shit going on. So guys, listen, leave your expectations for when you think Donda will be dropping, because at this point, man, who even knows? Like, I don't know when he's gonna drop it, and it could be that, at the time of this recording, because like it's around 12:30 right now, it could be dropping in a couple of hours, it could be dropping the next day. So what do you think's gonna happen?
I don't know. And what we're gonna be doing here is that, like, we're gonna be taking you guys through the latest updates on when Kanye's Donda is gonna drop, and pretty much all the info that we get, we'll be giving it to you guys. And of course, when the album does finally drop, we'll be doing our review on the channel, so stay tuned for that. But at this point, I mean, Kanye might just scrap the album, and that might be the biggest trick that he ever pulls on us, is let me preview this amazing album that has a variety of sounds and an excessive amount of features, but I'll never put it out because the experience was enough for me. I feel like what Kanye did with that ultralight beam, him ascending into heaven, that was like gratifying enough for Kanye, and he might not need anything else. Maybe the experience was enough for him, and maybe he wants the fans to appreciate that and not focus so much on the music and having it in our catalog.
Absolutely, but it's weird too, because like merchandise was on sale at the arena, and then also we had gotten word that you could also buy the merchandise online. So
and
it's
also
weird
digital copies of the album and like physicals. I don't know.
It's weird because if he's selling digital copies, I feel as if it will come out. But as far as the listening party goes, we got a fantastic album, and there was a lot of layers to this. And
a lot.
Before we actually went into the listening party, we had knowledge that this album would be split up into acts, and you kind of knew this by the type of listening party that you had gotten on the second time. So I'm going to read through all of the features that we had confirmed with the second listening party, and there's over 25 different features. So we had Pusha T, Don Toliver, Kid Cudi, Fivio Foreign, Donda, Jay Ruga, Lil Yachty, Playboy Carti, Travis Scott, Baby Keem, Young Thug, Vori, Casey, Roddy Ricch, Lil Durk, 070 Shake, Westside Gun, Conway the Machine, Jay Electronica, Sheek Louch, Jadakiss, Styles P, Larry Hoover Jr., Pop Smoke, Francis and the Lights, Jay-Z, Sunday Service Choir, The Weeknd, and Lil Baby. And this is, of course, according to Tidal.
This is probably one of the most stacked feature lists, that we've seen in recent time. But going back to the actual release date of the album, Justin LeBoy has tweeted saying, listen, I'm gonna be honest, via Kanye, it's coming out at some point August 6th, no specific time. And he also said, whenever Kanye want to drop it, but it's a classic, when someone asked him, when are we getting the album? So do you think that he's still putting these feature verses together? Like, what do you think is the reasoning why it's not gonna come out, and when do you think it finally will?
This is the thing, is like, it's so hard to tell now, because there was drastic improvements from the first listening party to the second. Like, as I said at the beginning of this video, the mixing and mastering was much better. I feel as if I actually was hearing a coherent project. Like, it didn't sound like there was missing verses. Not only that, but every single feature seemed to knock for me.
Which one was your favorite?
Oh, which one was my favorite? That's such a hard take. I would probably say The Weeknd was up there for me.
That was great.
That was fucking fantastic. Maybe Don Toliver as well. Kid Cudi had a beautiful feature on there. Like, I would have to go back to the track list or have an official track list, because, obviously I don't want to give misinformation, but those are my favorite features without, on what I heard in the second listening party. But how about you? What did you like?
My favorite one would probably have to be Jay Electronica's verse on Life of the Party. I mean, the bars and the amount of, the density of the lyrics were just top notch, and one of the best verses of the entire year.
Yeah.
Then the Locks did their thing on the same song too. You also got Playboy Carti on Off the Grid, who totally snapped and really impressed me.
Fivio Foreign had a fantastic fucking verse.
He dropped like a 64, man.
That was the last guy I expected to perform like that. And I remember before the listening party, we were like, yo, listen, that Fivio Foreign verse cannot be whack, or else it kind of takes some points off, especially if you have it in a Kanye West track list, but he absolutely did not disappoint. And not only that, but I loved Kanye's performances because unlike the first listening party, you actually got Kanye rapping. And I had songs where I felt as if I was listening to, like, let's say, like, you know, Real Friends off of The Life of Pablo, or let's say like Saint Pablo, where he's just going into this different sort of introspective mode where he's talking about life events and how he's currently feeling about his certain life situation. So it was really nice, and I felt as if I got a coherent album, and that's what kind of disappoints me if I don't get it, is like I really did enjoy the listening party, and I could just imagine how I'm going to enjoy this after, let's say, the 15th listen and the 16th listen. And now there's even a bigger concern. How the fuck am I going to be able to review this properly after one listen? That's the thing, is like there's so many layers to this, so take us through that.
Sonically, it just sounds totally different from anything else that Ye's ever put out. And like you're saying, there's so many different, you know, sonic elements. You have some beats that have a lot of organs and a lot of gospel-esque sounds. Apart from that, I mean, of course, you have more industrial and experimental sounds on songs like I Know God Breathed on this. But I love, you know, the way that Kanye used his singing voice on this. He goes into that, you know, that high falsetto register, and that really worked often. In terms of his rapping, you know, I would say that a lot of times he would stay locked into one flow, but I loved his loose flow on Pure Souls. And what I noticed is that they reworked a lot of the beats. The mixing and the mastering sounded upgraded, but I didn't like the fact that they put on drums on Pure Souls. I loved the way that the piano just carried it beforehand, but overall the production was an upgrade over what we heard the first time. My favorite moment from the listening party though probably was the last song, which was what was that last song? No Child Left Behind, where Kanye's kind of ascending into heaven and you have the stadium open up. And that was meaningful because that opened my eyes to the fact that like Kanye put his heart and soul into this project, because him ascending into God was kind of like, you know, him, you know, reaching and being with his mother again symbolically. It was kind of like there's no child left behind. He's going to be reunited with his mother once again. And that really touched me. And I mean, a lot of emotional moments. So do you feel like Kanye really opened up and led us into his current mindset for this album?
Absolutely. It's one of his most personal albums because there's so much heartfelt content. And not only that, but I feel as if the production also speaks to the flow of the album. I have to listen to it again, but I kind of understood how the album was transitioning into different parts. Like, you know, you obviously got more of like the hype songs and more songs that had like, let's say, distorted 808s or stuff that was heavier on production on the first half. And then, you know, once I heard, I believe it was Remote, there was a subtle switch within the track list where stuff started getting more melodic, and then towards the end it started getting more gospel, where you had, you know, obviously the
No Child Left Behind,
the outro to the track, No Child Left Behind. So I like the way it was progressing and the way it flowed. So the thing is like, I'm just anxious to go back in so I could understand it further and I could go through the material. But now we're left with this question: when do you think he'll drop it?
Look, there's definitely a big chance that he does end up dropping on August 6th, because we saw with Jesus is King, I think it came out at 1 p.m. on the day that it was supposed to come out at midnight. So that might be a repeated situation where he decides to drop in the daytime. I don't think he's going to drop at 4 or 5 a.m. because people are going to want to get their rest. But apart from that, I just hope that it does come on time, because I have a feeling that if it doesn't drop on August 6th, it will be totally scrapped and Kanye will just make Donda be what Donda was, and that was just a crazy experience. But either way, I just want the time to sit with this album, because there's so much to digest. There's so much to unpack in terms of the lyrics, in terms of the different sounds, and of course, getting the order and the flow of the album right, because it sounds like what we saw from what Casey posted, that there's going to be different acts to the album. So I'd love to see how that plays in together, and how the album has a cohesion to it, because it did kind of sound all over the place. So I'll bring it back to you. When do you think the album's dropping, if you had to put your money on it?
I think it's going to be dropping today. I still think it's going to be dropping on the 6th. And if it doesn't, then I just don't know if it'll drop at all. Like, the only other indication you could have is like maybe the iTunes date was right. Maybe we have until the 9th and we'll only have it for sure, let's say, indication until then. But for now, the only thing I'm wondering is like, where is Kanye going with his career?
Is he trolling us? What do you think's happening? Like, do you think he's like legitimately trolling?
No, I don't think he's trolling us. You don't put this much effort into a rollout to troll. Like, this is meaningful. Like, whatever ends up happening with this rollout, like, I'm still super impressed with everything because this has been beautiful. Like, he's making people appreciate the art again, and people have come together as, you know, Kanye fans are not. Like, everyone has, you know, really tuned into this and has, you know, paid attention to what's going on. And it's not a sort of thing where Kanye just drops the album and here, you know, you guys could have it and, you know, then you guys tell me how you feel. No, like, he wants people to enjoy this. He wants people to have this in their rotation. Like, it feels like a Kanye album. So going back to you now, there's a lot of different sounds on this, and it feels like he's going into a different direction in his career. So based on what you heard on this second listening party, because this is probably the closest we'll get to the album if it doesn't get out, you know, just in case, where do you think he's going?
I really don't know, man. It's just like I said, there's so many diverse sounds, and I wonder if it does sound like he's, you know, he's breaking certain boundaries because, you know, there are new elements that he's kind of splashing in there, but I don't really know where he's going. I feel like maybe there could have been more lyrics oriented towards Donda, because it did sound like he mixed in a bunch of things, but it'll be interesting to see, and I think that it'll take way more listens to kind of unpack that. But like you were saying, I just love the beauty of the process and that he's showing us firsthand what it's taking him to craft what might end up being one of his better albums. I don't know if it will be, but either way, this has been one of the best album rollouts that I've experienced ever in my lifetime, I would say, because of how long it's taken him to put all the pieces of the puzzle together. And I just hope that the end result will be as amazing as it could be.
Absolutely. And you're left in a situation now where, like, how aren't you going to enjoy this? How aren't you going to go in and enjoy this whole process? Because, you know, artists nowadays just, you know, they'll do a couple of social media posts, or they'll do billboards, or they'll do something. And I'm not talking about Tyler or J. Cole because they had fantastic rollouts, but they'll just drop their album and be like, here, you know, you guys take it. But Kanye has remastered the art of rollouts again and has done something so grand and so, I would say, cinematic, that I feel as if you have no choice to tune into this album if it drops, you know, like, there's absolutely no doubt.
How do you feel about Return of the Throne, man? Because Justin LeBoy tweeted, let me go through this, give me a second.
Yeah, this was very interesting.
Yeah, so he tweeted, where is it now? I got to scroll through the Twitter. Hold on.
Was it the one where someone asked him about the feature,
yeah,
if it's coming
so
soon?
he said, are we getting a Return of the Throne project? And Justin tweeted, Watch the Throne 2 coming end of the year. Kanye and Hove about to make history again. Do you think there's any legitimacy behind this?
No, definitely not. Absolutely not.
I think it could happen.
No, I don't think it's going to happen.
Because they're both at a point where they're both billionaires. They're both fathers. They have a lot more in common than people think that they do. And I feel like this could happen, and it would be amazing. I don't know if they could recapture the hype that they had with the first one, because, I mean, that's a fucking classic collab album. But I think this will end up happening, man.
I think Jay-Z ends off his career at 444. That's the only reason why
I don't
think it doesn't
so,
come back.
Man. Jay-Z, like, we heard on a written testimony that he has more to offer, man. His pen game is not slowing down.
I don't doubt he has more to offer. It's just he had such a great ending to that whole story, and it was like, it was like, why have to go back into different things? And I understand, obviously, you're doing fan service. You want, you know, people want to recapture that hype, but I wouldn't come back for a sequel, you know, like, we got the first Watch the Throne. It's, you know, one of the most iconic collab albums of all time. And, you know, I don't really think it's needed at this point, especially if Kanye is going to be dropping this year. We had Jay-Z material in 2020 with a written testimony. We had his studio album with 444 back in 2017. So I don't see a reason for it. Would I like it? Yes. I tune in 1,000% and I get hyped for it. It's just, I don't think
it's not necessary, right?
I don't think the pieces of the puzzle fit as well as we think it does. You know, there's a lot of different things. Not only that, but they're both moguls now. They both have a lot of shit going down. Like, you know, Kanye's about to release his collaboration with Gap. Jay-Z's doing all of his mogul shit, and obviously he's on his own time. So where do they find that mix to be able to drop a collab album?
I don't know, man, but Jay-Z penned his verse to Jail 5 hours before it was previewed at the first listening party. So this shit is effortless for Hove, and I feel like if Kanye is in this creative binge, anything is possible. And on that note, we'll be taking you guys through the rest of the updates for the Donda album. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see if we finally get the album. Stay tuned, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Thank you for watching the video. It's always a pleasure doing content for you guys. Listen, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, because we're doing album reviews, and we actually have our series called Everything We Know, where we take you guys through the whole album rollout of the hottest releases of the year. Not only that, guys, but our Patreon plan is now live. You guys can access that in the bio. I appreciate you guys, and I'll see you on the next one.